Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a new Elden Ring build video. Today we're looking at this bad boy. This is the Watchdog staff, a colossal weapon of impressive power, all thanks to its powerhouse of an Ash of War, where we're shooting out these many projectiles at a target all at once. This thing has consistent impressive DPS output from long range using that Ash of War, and that also leads to some really fun mind game options in PvP. It's an absolute nightmare to try to cast or fight this thing at range, and it's hardly better up close because you're playing into a boosted up Colossal Weapon, which is far from nice in that situation. Basically, back in 1.07, this weapon was actually fixed if you didn't know. It was straight up broken beforehand. Various item interactions just didn't boost or work with it, making it, well, a literal broken weapon. Now, however, it actually works with things like Alexander's Talisman and the Crozier magic increasing armor set, making this weapon after that a low-key awesome option that is genuinely underrated. So let me show you how, starting with PvP. This is actually a colossal weapon, so we unfortunately have the colossal moveset, which is not generally a great PvP moveset. It's fine in PvE, it doesn't matter there, but it's because it's so simple and slow and quite obvious that it's hard to land any hits if you're just being very obvious with it. It does hit hard if you can land any though, but likely you're going to be looking to force trades to make those hits even possible. Fortunately, that is exactly what this build is made for. It's what it excels at. The Ash of War, your primary source of damage, is this fantastic ranged harass. Forces people to come deal with you rather than take these many little hits over and over and over. As they come run over to trade with you, you're waiting with a colossal weapon that is going to punish them. The damage combo of a basic light attack with these projectiles hitting at the same time feels amazing though, because it can hit up to like 1,300 plus damage or more in one combo, even if you're only one-handing the weapon. People desperately run through these ranged projectiles to get to you, only to be rewarded with basically death. Plus, with the big poise stagger of a big colossal weapon like this, it causes them to stagger, and that means the projectiles are more likely to land because they can't roll out. It's great. Now, as you can see, I am making use of the magic glint blade sorcery, which has fantastic synergy with this Ash of War. Both have this delay on use before actually then flying to the target. So putting out like 1, 2, maybe 3 magic glint blades, they distract the enemy, forcing them to roll while I set up the slower big Ash, and I can combo that out many times as well. Mixing and matching them is best though, because they fly at different rates, seemingly different speeds, and while ideally you want to see the Ash of War hit because it's going to deal more damage, either one is going to be really annoying for them, especially when you can harass them or force them to run into you because of it. Now, standing inside of our Terra Magica sigil is something that's quite hard to do in PvP normally. This build, it's pretty consistent, and it's great because it forces them, it kind of encourages them to come take the scary up close trades with your colossal weapon. It increases our damage so much, they have to deal with us, they can't just leave us to it. Now, obviously in our current patch 1.09, they have reduced the power of Terra Magica in PvP specifically. Now, we're not certain about the numbers because the patch has just come out, but it's not as strong as it was. However, it still generates enough threat for them to want to stop you standing in it, and it's still worth standing in for you because it's still going to be a big damage increase. And you can even cover yourself with the delayed projectiles, drinking your Ashen Flask, getting your mana back, all while still attacking them. Due to this being a rare weapon to see though, I mean, I've never seen it in PvP. People don't seem to expect or understand it or how this Ash of War works, especially this setup I'm running. So that also usually gives me room to set up. They look at me for a moment, now the sigil's down, now it's go time, they're in a bad way right there. So this has been a very funny and impressively powerful build at range, really hard to deal with if you stay far away from it. If they don't want to deal with that, which is understandable, you're still fantastic up close, you can still get the Ash off, you can still pop a quick glint blade as well, then go for some quick lights, one-handed or two-handed, go for like a slow heavy, mess up the roll timings. This build is a nightmare to deal with when it comes to roll timings because of all the delayed attacks and the slow weapon. Not to forget, if you are just sending a load of projectiles at someone, there's no reason why you can't run in and attack them with the weapon at the same time. Maybe you'll get like a juicy hit of the weapon or let the projectile land because they're rolling your weapon. It creates so much pressure. It's such a simple, perfectly synergized build and a very unique playstyle. I really recommend you give it a try. On the other hand though, we do have PvE to talk about, which is a lot less varied in the way that we play it. There's no mind games here. Basically beforehand, you buff with Golden Vow, you use your Physic, you stand in a Terra Magica the entire fight, you get the massive magic damage increase from that, and you absolutely spam the Ash of War as your primary source of damage. With all the buffs, this means we are absolutely steamrolling through these health bars, and these are new game plus bosses as well, and it doesn't look like it. It can be done from really impressive range as well, really far away, really long safe distances, and you have that consistent ability to spam it because it's actually not that expensive on FP with the build that we have. I was also shocked a little bit at how little I was interrupted to say we don't have much poise in this build. So I'm thinking the Ash, when you activate it, must have some kind of armor effect, which I just didn't really experience or see in PvP. Still, just a few casts of this, like 5 or 6, and pretty much every boss evaporated, so it felt amazing. It is consistent, fantastic magic damage, which you can blindly spam, and if needed, you can always back up and cast another in a short punish window. Though obviously, again, you want to stay in this Terra Magica as much as possible. Still, I can't believe how effective this is. Ignoring the weapon entirely, you're just using the Ash, nothing else matters when it's that strong. People must be sleeping on this weapon, people must not realize that it's been fixed all the way back in 1.07, so surely people should know about it by now. It's funny because I have Flame Grant Me Strength in this build if we need it, which will buff the physical damage of the weapon, but that doesn't help the Ash at all, so there's barely any point even thinking about it. So yeah, overall I'm really impressed by this weapon's DPS and the consistency of that. Let's explain the build. Thankfully, this one is pretty simple. We only make one minor change in Talisman when we swap from PvE to PvP. Now, either way, of course, we're using the Watchdog staff with its awesome Sorcery of the Crozier Ash of War. It's quite poor in its scaling, but fortunately, we're mostly relying on its Ash of War for its damage anyway. Because we are putting points into strength, then the seal of choice is going to be the Claw Mat, because it's a strength one. And we want a cheap staff in terms of the intelligence needed to run it, and also a light one at 3 weight, so we have the Glintstone staff. For our full armor set then, as we are using intelligence-based, magic-based damage, we want the Spellblade set. Each piece of this gives us 2% improved magic damage on our Ash of War and as well as our other magic stuff. The downside of this is it's very low poise, so you need to be aware of that in PvP. For the talismans, we have the Shard of Alexander, we have the Carrion Filigreed Crest, and the Erdtree's Favor. This gives us equip load and survivability. This means we can actually use the Ash of War constantly, which is what we want, improving the damage of the Ash of War and the Shard of Alexander. And for PvE, of course, we improve our magic damage with the Magic Scorpion Charm. The downside of this, obviously, is that it makes us take more damage, which we do not want in PvP. So considering our low poise, the Bull Goat's Talisman is a top tier pick for PvP specifically. It helps us with the low amount that we have. When it comes to our Flask of Wondrous Physic, we only need the Magic Shroud in cracked tier to boost our magic damage, and then the other one is up to you. For our seal, we have Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow, but most of the time I only use Golden Vow because we're increasing our damage overall with that, whereas the Flame Grant Me Strength is more physical and fire and doesn't really have relevance to our main damage, our Ash of War specifically, though it's there if you want to hit with your weapon in particular. Then with the staff, of course, we have Terra Magica, and for PvP specifically, we have the Magic Glint Blade, as we've talked about. Lastly, the stats. We have 60 Vigor because we are doing PvP. You could go lower if just doing PvE. As much mind as possible, we happen to land on 23. 15 Endurance allows us to weigh everything without being heavy, which is nice. 66 Strength gets us to the soft cap of 80 when we're two-handing the weapon. 20 Intelligence means we can actually use Terra Magica and our staff. And then 25 Faith to be able to use Golden Vow and maybe Flame Grant Me Strength if you are using that. The stats stay the same whether you're doing PvE or PvP. You can make slight changes if you're doing a PvE focus only. But there you have it, the Watchdog staff build in completion. I truly believe this is a direly underrated weapon right now. To say that it performed as good as that in PvP, I just didn't expect that. I expected it to be consistent and good in PvE, where it's going to be reliable DPS at range, and it was exactly that. But in PvP, my god, that combined with the Glint Blade delay spells, what a potent combination that was. If you have enjoyed this build video, then let me know with a like on the video. And until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.